Greetings everyone, and a special hello Sydney. Do you like scary movies? Of course you do. Even if you don't consider yourself a horror film aficionado, you've probably seen a Scream, or at least heard about what some silly teenagers did last summer. And today on Versus, 'tis I, your fearless host Mark Ellis, who will guide you through a cavalcade of chaotic killers as two of the biggest thrillers from the 1990s go head to head, or rather, hook to knife? In one corner you have the iconic Scream, the OG film in the franchise that took an entire generation's nightmares, turned them on their ear, and then reminded us all to stay virgins as long as possible. Easier for some than others. In the other corner, it's I Know What You Did Last Summer, the film that took a gaggle of teen heartthrobs and threw some weirdo fisherman into their road to stardom. Don't worry, he survived. He's fine, healed up, and he's back to doing what he loves most, offing teenagers that hit him with a car. Fun fact, this is the first time in the history of Versus that our handsome writer, me, had to type a movie title once, then copy and paste it for the rest of the script. Have you ever tried to plug that into a keyboard over and over? I Know What You Did Last Summer? I might just give up by round 2 and call this match Scream vs. Summer. Anyway, here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Round 3, welcome to the jungle. Round 4, smells like teen spirit. And then we'll do a wild card round that I hope can also be named after a kick-ass rock song. Do we go Highway to Hell for I Know What You Did Last Summer? Or maybe we could do School's Out for Scream. That also works for I Know What You Did Last Summer. You know what? We'll figure it out, so let's just walk this way to round 1. Get it? Start me up. Round 1, box office. Before we get into the box office receipts and then the critics' take and fun rock tunes, I'm gonna be upfront with all of you Freddie Prinze Jr. fan club members, as I am your president.
No one gets me the way you do.
I could seriously text him right now. Look, I Know What You Did Last Summer is going to have an uphill climb today. Scream is an all-time classic, and IKWYDLS is a well-known property, but it's kind of like Scream's little brother. Now, the good news is that teenagers don't care what the odds are. They believe in themselves no matter what the stakes or how many fishermen they might have killed. And that faith might actually pay off in this round, because I Know What You Did Last Summer crushed in the fall of 1998. Released on October 17th. Hey, that's my sister's birthday. Freddie says hi. The film stayed at number 1 on the domestic box office charts for 3 weeks, including the no-brainer Halloween weekend. Worldwide, the film would go on to scare up. We knew I was going to do it. It was just best to get it over with. $125 million, and all of a sudden, Scream has its work cut out for it. I am the worst. This was a really good run for writer Kevin Williamson, who penned both Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and he'd go on to write Scream 2, which was released a couple months after I Know What You Did Last Summer, and less than a year after Scream made its theatrical debut in December of 1996. Wes Craven's Meta Baby would end up hauling in $172 million worldwide, easily defeating its very game competitor. But speaking of part 2s, well, look, today's matchup is about the OGs, but if you've seen previous episodes of this show, what am I talking about? Of course you have. You're a huge fan. Remember RoboCop vs. Terminator or Lethal Weapon vs. Die Hard? The franchises as a whole can sometimes infiltrate the judge's opinion. In the case of Megaplex bucks, it's not really going to matter here. Scream 2 outperformed its predecessor by a total of $1 million in international bullion. Meanwhile, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer managed only a fraction of the original's take, notching $40 million. They kill off Freddie Prinze Jr. that one? That's not a good move. Never, ever do that. I stand with the audiences. I give props to I Know What You Did Last Summer for arriving first. I know, it was late to the party in movie form, but it was actually based off of a 1973 Lois Duncan novel. Ah, Lois Duncan. Can we get a round of applause for Lois Duncan, please? Don't Look Behind You was on my high school freshman reading list, and it really balanced out the book melatonin that is Ethan Frome. But in the here and now, Scream reigned supreme at the box office numerous times, and might again with the soon-to-be-released Part 5. Ooh, I wonder if the Hook guy is going to be the killer this time. Cross these franchises over, baby. Well, until that happens, Scream gets the win in round 1, and goes up 1-0. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Said the art house indie cinema to the big-time blockbuster, enjoy your money, we'll rely on professional movie review experts to be our currency. Will that be the case with I Know What You Did Last Summer going up against Scream? I'm not sure what to expect in terms of Tomatometer love for either picture, but I do have high hopes that the audience score is going to be fresh in both cases. These films were designed to make packed theaters jump, shriek, and with delight. So let's get right to the good news that is how the audience felt about the Scream and some summertime. Well, they raved about Scream. 79% fresh with audiences, and no doubt in part because the film opens by making us feel like we're taking the call, answered by Jiffy Pop chef Drew Barrymore. Do you like scary movies? Of course we do. We're actually watching one right now. And I have to think my movie trivia schmodown experience would have helped me stay alive in that situation for a while, at least until my parents got home. So moviegoers loved that one, but how did they feel when the girls stopped by for the summer? Oh boy, this one hurts. I was ready to lobby hard for I Know What You Did Last Summer, based solely on its audience score, but it's only at 40%. What happened? We have arguably the best Party 5 cast member ever, sorry Nev, and the Gordon's fisherman older brother who dropped out of high school to join a cult, and we can't even get to fresh? Pouring more salt in the wound is that Scream 2, again, released weeks after I Know What You Did Last Summer, got a 57% with audiences. But there is a silver lining. Scream 3 is just at 37%. Take that, Ghostface. All right, well, we're going to have to Hail Mary this thing on the Tomatometer. If a certain ragtag group of kids can hit a guy by the side of the road and almost get away with it, anything's possible. And I have good news. The Tomatometer score is higher than the audience score. That was the good news I was telling you about. The bad news is that it's still rotten at 45%.
No, there's no way!
Oh my God, this isn't happening.
All right, Scream, time for the death blow. 79% fresh on the Tomatometer, as well as the audience score. How do you like that for symmetry?
You! Shut up! Just shut up!
For funsies, let's see them sequels and how they fared in the tomato patch. Once again, Scream 3 is lower than the OG Summer, clocking in at just 40%. But Scream 2 provided the biggest whale of them all, earning 81% fresh. Scream 4 also eats into fresh territory with an even 60%, while I Still Know What You Did Last Summer? Ooh, it's at 7%. And I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, the classic from 2006, it's at 0%. It's not because nobody reviewed it, people reviewed it, and it's at 0%. I think it's safe to say that as hard as I lobbied for the summer movie, it's gonna be a win here for Scream, and it goes up 2-0.
You are not gonna throw this on me.
Come on, guys, please don't do this.
This isn't getting us anywhere.
Round 3, welcome to the jungle. As a great poet once said, you know where you are? You in the jungle, baby. You're gonna die. Well, those words by Robert Frost harken back to the classic rule of the jungle. Kill or be killed. That could also be the case with either Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer. If you yourself aren't willing to take a life, someone's probably gonna take yours. This round will take a look at those we lost in these franchise kicker offers. But first, let's enjoy them perpetrators who are putting in all the elbow grease and actually murdering folks. I Know What You Did Last Summer opens strong here because our entire lead cast kills someone.
It was an accident.
Or so we think. Our Fab Four of Freddie, Jennifer Love, Sarah Michelle, and Ryan are being typical dumb teenagers on a secluded beachside road when thump! Uh-oh, we're hoping it was just a deer that Ryan's dad's car hit. But no, only Disney would be aggressive enough to kill a sweet animal that early in the movie. Nope, they hit a fisherman who was then dead, but then alive, then dead again, then presumably drowned if he was not in fact dead that second time I said he was dead. But the dude not only wasn't necessarily deceased, he also remembered. And a summer later, he put his stellar handwriting to good use by offing the same kiddos who almost capped him. And of course, he enjoyed some collateral damage on the way. Poor Johnny Galecki. His parents weren't rich, and this was before he had Big Bang Theory cheddar, so he was just a working stiff like the rest of us. And his death is the marker that Fisherman is out for blood and does not care who gets in his way. Scream also opened strong with one of the greatest and most surprising deaths in film history, Drew Barrymore. Originally, she had signed on to play the lead, a signing that convinced Wes Craven to take another look at the script that he had originally passed on directing. 5 weeks before production was set to begin, Drew had an idea kernel pop in her head. Hey, let's make me the opening act and subvert audience expectations for the rest of the movies. The gamble worked, and if you weren't awake when Scream began, all of a sudden, you're on the edge of your seat thereafter. Okay, so we traded Galecki for a Barrymore, but then Ghostface went on a rampage that saw even the principal of Woodsboro High not able to Fonzarelli his way out of this film alive. Ghostface, as we now know, was actually two faces, Billy and Stu, and they got even more twisted with their murdering as the film went on. As far as those lead characters go, Rose McGowan's Tatum probably gets the lion's share of memorable kills. She gets tortured, bloodied, and garage-doored. Steve didn't make it to the final credits either, nor did slow runner camera guy Kenny. But we weren't all that emotionally invested in them. Sarah Michelle Gellar's beauty pageant winner, on the other hand, there's no way she's gonna perish, right? I mean, we all assumed Ryan Philippe would die simply because it was his drunken idiocy that caused this mess in the first place. As fate would have it, he was the first one to go. And poor Sarah had to watch it from stage. Her character, Helen Shivers, I get it, puts up much more of a fight than her estranged boyfriend and makes Ben Willis burn a ton of calories before her pulse finally stops. Buffy the Vampire Slayer would have handed this guy his lunch without breaking a sweat, but Helen certainly had a horror movie moral victory. At least give her a participation trophy. She survived for like 8 minutes during that chase. Both endings leave some room for sequels, but if Scream left it to fans to debate whether Matthew Lillard's Stu actually died, have fun going down that internet rabbit hole. I Know You Did Last Summer just flat out told us that someone still has it in for JLH. Imagine going through all that, rebounding with your sophomore year in college, and then having I Still Know show up in the mirror of what is undoubtedly the steamiest shower in NCAA history. Both movies are fun rewatches because they enjoy their slicing, dicing, and icing of famous people. But as far as cast to murdered character ratios go, I Know What You Did Last Summer comes out on top of Scream here and stays alive to fight another round. Way to go, Lois Duncan. It's 2-1, and we got us a ball game.
Through art, I shall serve my country.
Did you feed her this?
Work it, babe!
Round 4, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Well, despite what Kurt Cobain and his rock and roll music might intimate, with the lights out, it's actually much more dangerous. You could trip, stub your toe, and if you're in a horror movie, the killer is definitely right there. Keep the bulbs on because we have so many Tiger Beat pinups to enjoy. This round is going to be won by which collective of high school to college kids is the better hive of talent and storytelling. If you were a kid in the 1990s, this round is for you. I'll give points to Scream for making it fun with Courtney Cox from Friends and David Arquette from marrying Courtney Cox. But keep in mind, we're only talking about the little tykes still in school, like Skeet Ulrich's Billy and Matthew Lillard's Stu. They weren't well known beforehand, but Scream certainly changed that within a few weeks. Rose McGowan had done a film called The Doom Generation after she debuted in some movie called Encino Man. She was in Encino Man? The Pauly Shore classic? Oh, that's instant credit in my book. But she was still auditioning to get into the new thriller picture going around town. But her savviness was beyond her years. She knew a brunette was playing the lead, so at her audition, where she also had brown hair, she asked the casting director, who was blonde, who their hairdresser is, because she planned on going blonde the next day. The gamble worked, and Rose landed the role of Tatum. Meanwhile, in that port town of I Know What You Did Last Summer, Ryan Philippe was considered for the role of Barry after being suggested by his real-life GF, Reese Witherspoon. She decided to not play the lead role of Julie James, but did mention that Ryan would be good for Barry. As for Sarah Michelle Gellar, her star-making turn of Buffy the Dracula Hater and I Know What You Did Last Summer both happened in 1997. And as an on-screen couple, the pair make the perfect foil for the decidedly goody two-shoes leads of Freddie Prinze Jr.'s Ray and Jennifer Love Hewitt's Julie. Despite what should have been considered for an Emmy, Freddie's role as tough guy in an episode of Family Matters didn't move the needle, and the She's All That's and Summer Catches of the world didn't happen until after the events of last summer. Jennifer Love Hewitt was rocking it on Party of Five and was the first major casting decision of the film. Director Jim Gillespie had to fight to get Prinze Jr. in there. The studio said nay multiple times before a new look, diet, and gym-sanctioned body convinced the brass to change their minds. Did someone say Party of Five? I did. Nev Campbell also starred in the seminal mid-90s drama that only cast dudes with animals as last names. Scott Wolf and a pre-Dharma Initiative Matthew Fox both worked alongside Jen and Nev. So if they're the two biggest stars heading into this movie, is this whole round, maybe match, going to come down to who was better on Party of Five? Full disclosure, I never watched the show. I was too busy with Friends. Hi, Monica. But I'll tell you this, Julie James has the most sound moral compass of anyone in her movie, and she's even resourceful enough to track down hillbilly Ann Hesh to find answers about the guy she thought she killed, who's now actually killing her friends. But she also falls for that old trick of cornering yourself into an unwinnable situation. At the behest of a rando fisherman, she runs onto his boat during the movie's climax. Maybe to call the police, but you could have done that from the shore too, right? Come on, Jules, how did you even get into college in the first place? Nev Campbell's Sidney Prescott would never fall for such a trick because Jamie Kennedy's Randy made sure his gang knew all the rules of scary cinema.
Don't you know the rules?
What rules?
Kennedy is the X factor in this round, and not just because he had a prank show called that for years. Randy is part comic relief, part Shakespearean chorus. He's letting us, the audience, know what to prepare for, and most of his slasher rules end up working out as he said they would, possibly with a few twists and turns on the way.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
But if you really did want this whole round to come down to Party of Five, fine. Neve Campbell was featured in all 142 episodes of that show. Jennifer Love Hewitt? Ooh, just 100 even. Look, I love you and you're crushing it on 911, but the teenagers in Scream get the point in round 4, and thus they take the match. But I am a man of my word, and you were promised one more round. Here we go. And now it's time for the wild card round. Time is on my side. Well, it certainly is for the Rolling Stones, and as the years since the late 90s would indicate, both Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer have left considerable legacies. Starting with the sequels to those originals. Scream 2 might be even more heralded than the OG in some circles, and Scream 5, inexplicably not called 5 Cream, is set to release within weeks. I Still Know, and I'll Always Know, may have faltered with the box office, and with the critics, and with audiences, but that franchise has staying power, and the summer regrets ain't done yet because it's now a streaming series on Amazon. And season 1 went so well that we're on to season 2. You wanna know who did it? Okay, all I'm gonna say is that at the end of season 1, Dylan is in jail, which cements Dylan as an all-time cool kid name. It worked on 90210, and it's still working today. That and Zachary are the best possible names for a boy, but we can also agree Mark is a timeless moniker. And technically, that whole I Know What You Did Last Summer lineage has lasted 23 years longer than Scream, thanks to the original novel. But whereas Scream had a late start, wow did it tortoise its way past the hair in a hurry. The film quickly became iconic for its meta-insights into horror canon, the winking sense of humor, and the sheer amount of unpredictability within the plot. Plus, it had an even longer TV run than The Summertime Kids, so far, as a show of the same name was an MTV staple from 2015 to 2019. Upon rewatching, because I do hard work here, Scream still holds up in every way imaginable. The Utes feeling indestructible, the puppy love of high school romances, and news media sensationalizing true crime. I Know You Did Last Summer? It's a good reminder to not drink and drive and to not associate with trust fund douches because they really don't have your best interest at heart. And if any of you were still planning on going hiking in a rain slicker at midnight, bring a hook. You'll need it the following summer. I Know What You Did Last Summer holds up primarily as an enjoyable product of its time that stands severed head and shoulders amongst most slashers of its era. But Scream is a movie and a franchise for all times. Countless films were inspired by it, and I can't wait to get back into a movie theater to see Stab or Scream or 5 Cream, whatever you want to call it. I just want to see how it's going to surprise me again after all these years. Scream wins the round and is now just running up the score in hopes the College Football Playoff Committee is paying attention.
And never, ever, under any circumstances known to God, speak about this again. Is that clear? It is now merely a future therapy bill, agreed?
Okay, Scream won in a cakewalk, but I Know What You Did Last Summer did enough for me to make some weekend plans. I'm gonna watch I Still Know. That super twist ending was ahead of its time. Before the MCU gave us like 17 post-credit scenes per flick and horror movie icons winked at us that they might not be dead, I Know What You Did Last Summer closed on one more super suspenseful sequence that still holds up. You heard it here first. We would not see Sam Jackson as Nick Fury and Iron Man unless I Know What You Did Last Summer paved the way. That's probably a very hot take, as was this whole show, but it's just my opinion. Now, let your voice be heard. Hit me up on social media at Mark Ellis Live and cast your vote for the best horror film between 1996 and 1997. Was Leprechaun on the Moon made then? Might have to rethink this entire episode. Also, check back here for more movie insights from Rotten Tomatoes. Until next time, this has been Versus. I'm Mark Ellis, and I'll be right back.